Hello and welcome to the Top Order podcast. Stu and Raj here for a midweek IPL update in which we'll look back at RCB versus Gujarat and Punjab's impressive win at Lucknow before taking a quick glance ahead at the 2024 final rematch between the Sunrisers and KKR. Well, Raj, welcome back firstly. Excited to be talking cricket with you again. It's been a little while, and here we are on a Thursday morning in New Zealand, following closely after the RCB GT game, and I was already in my mind. I was prepped. I had all these thoughts racing through about how I could throw you a half volley about this great start from RCB. You know, I know maybe you're not the I don't know if you can claim the title of being the biggest RCB fan in New Zealand, but you're certainly the biggest fan on our pod. So I thought it was going to really get the excitement pumping for this morning's episode, but Gujarat showed up in Bengaluru and just spoiled the party.
They did. Firstly, this is very hot off the press on a Thursday morning. That match has just finished. Nothing better than waking up to see a Virat Kohli 100 in the score sheet, and that's not what we saw. But look, I actually thought that Gujarat made this look very, very easy. I'm sure we'll talk about the chase in a second, but I thought that 170 was a decent score on this pitch. I thought that they had started off poorly. It's the theme of the two matches that we're going to talk about today. Poor starts, but good through the middle and a really good finish from Tim David. I thought that was a good score. Evidently, that's not the case, and GT chased that down very, very easily. Anything that stood out to you that we can start with in terms of where we're going to go with this discussion?
I think we should start right at the start there with Mohammed Siraj. I mean, you said that they got off, that RCB got off to a bad start, and poor old Binksy, sold his stock on seam bowlers at the weekend. I don't think we've seen a score over 200 since. Mitchell Starc took 5 for against the Sunrisers. Mumbai's seamers kind of cleaned up KKR. We had Arshdeep and Lockie that we'll talk about later on, knocked the top off LSG, and today it was Mohammed Siraj after, RCB sold their stock on him, didn't they? And he comes back to haunt his former side. And it's just, I think he's had, fair to say, he's had a down 12 months, but he's so much fun to watch when he's pumped up and he really looks excited at the moment. He looks like he wants to prove a point. He's charging in. He's got that, that Buttler dropped that regulation catch off Salt in the first over, and he was kind of ready to go, ready to charge off on his celebration. Yep. But Arshad gets Kohli, then Siraj cleans up Padikal, gets his moment of celebration, and then even better, Salt hits him for that big 6 and cleans him up next ball. Stumps go flying, and he's just pumped up
everywhere.
And, then Ishant gets sharp, Patidar not long after that, and suddenly it's 42 for 4, and it's really tough to come back from that and score a massive total. And those seamers just did the job today.
Yeah, no, I think Binksy describes it as putting some water in the wicket, the stump holes to get the stumps absolutely flying like that. We don't have the experience as a batsman and a bowler spin bowler of seeing the stumps fly like that, but it must get you very, very fired up. Siraj was really good today. He was really good. As you said, he's had a pretty quiet. He's looked a little bit adrift in the sort of last 12 months, and I love seeing him like this. I love seeing him with energy. He actually, as you mentioned, lifts the whole team when he's got his tail up like that. Very similar to like a Dale Steyn. When they are on and they're fired up, they get everyone involved, and he was very, very good today, knocking off that top order, big wickets of Salt and Padigal. That drop catch I thought was going to come back and haunt RCB. Thank goodness for it would haunt GT. Thank goodness for them it didn't. But he's looked really good. I've really enjoyed also the return of Prasadi Krishna. I had a lot of stock on him during the Australian tour where he didn't really get a go, but he's actually looked in form over the last few months when I've seen him play. And then Sai Kishore through the middle and later stages there, some big wickets at the end to probably limit the damage that did happen. I know Tim David did a great job at the end closing, but the performance of RCB I think was really, really good, even though they got to a score the bowling effort of GT was really good, even though I think I thought RCB got to a total that was very defendable. So yeah, if I was GT, I'd be very happy with that bowling performance against this inform RCB side.
Totally, and they did it with sort of a pretty mixed fielding performance. Mixed maybe is even a bit kind. I mean that
Very kind.
there's a few that went up in the air. Sai Kishore, you mentioned him. I thought he again bowled really well. Should have had Livingston caught by Tuatia quite early on in Livingston's innings. Although to be fair to Tuatia, that ball just about went to the moon. When before it came down, but yeah, they were sort of a shambles in the field. Balls going through fielders and balls going up in the air and no one wanting to catch it. Yeah, I don't know. No, wasn't so good.
And it's not very often we mention a bowling attack that has Rashid Khan in it without mentioning Rashid Khan.
Yeah.
But he really, as you guys mentioned on the weekend, he's been going air miles, or using the term air miles. There was a catch dropped off him. I'm not sure if it was Livingston late in the, was it Padita? Someone later in when he was bowling, and where Rashid Khan was getting absolutely carted around, and a wicket would have done him a world of good. Of good. That didn't happen for him. He got some absolute tap today, but. If you can add a good performance from him to the good performances that we've seen from the other GT bowlers, they look like a very well-rounded bowling attack.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess we in the preview when we looked at this GT side, we went bowling attack looks really good, lots of options, lots of depth there. Not sure they've got enough batting, and I think I mentioned it last episode on Sunday that maybe they only need three batters, and look. It's saying only three batters, maybe that's doing a disservice, certainly to Shafane Rutherford, who's come in and kind of done everything he's been asked so far in this tournament. But Sai Sudharsan continued his brilliant form today, and as you said, you thought 170 was not a too bad score. A good recovery, sort of big finish from Tim David, sort of got a little bit of that momentum back, but Sai Sudharsan just straight away continues his great form and made it comfortable for GT in the end.
Yeah, I think I've mentioned it before. When you see this sort of left-handed batsman in full flight, they look so good, and he just looks so good when he's going there. There was a great start for GT opposed to the start that RCB had, and all those batsmen, as you mentioned, the three, or we'll leave Shubman Gill out today, but those three batsmen came out and they batted incredibly well. There were some massive sixes in this game today. If we're going to probably have to look at what sponsor we're going to use for the biggest six, for the turquoise cap for the biggest six that we'll award every week. But there were some massive contenders in this game, and Shafane Rutherford coming in as the sort of impact player. A lot of the time, and I think Baldy's done some analysis on the impact player and sort of how that's working. I think this was one of those performances that's going to get a 4 or 5 star as an impact player. He came in, he did his job, and he continued the pressure all the way through, even after Sai Sudharsan was dismissed in that 12th over. Shafane Rutherford's job was to come in and continue that momentum, and he did that quite easily along with Jos Buttler. So I think, we can't take anything away from GT. Perfect all-round performance, and, from what I thought was a very, very good score of 170, 169, they were probably about 30 short in the end, and you never know what they could have actually got if they went for it, knowing they were chasing more. So yeah, this is a fairly comprehensive win, I think.
Totally, and I loved how they went about things once Sudharsan got out. I mean, RCB sort of brought back Hazelwood. They knew they had to get a wicket. It was quite funny on the commentary. I think it was Michael Clark actually. He before that he was going, "Oh, they're leaving all their players back. Really need to bring in a slip. Do all of this kind of stuff. Bring the field up." Sudharsan does that little ramp, gets caught, and I can't remember who was on commentary. Maybe Murali Kartik just goes, "Oh, I don't think they needed that slip." it was great. I loved that. But yeah, just GT. As soon as he went out, they managed that rest of that chase so perfectly. I think they had a boundary off the last ball of the next 5 overs. They managed it so well. They made sure we're going to win every over from this point on. We're not going to let you back into this game, and and they got it down to, I think, just about a run a ball before Buttler decided it's time to finish the job and had his little flurry to end the game. And he's again another player who's moved, and you wonder if Rajasthan are thinking, gee, what have we let slip away here, because he looks again just someone in very good, in continuing on his IPL form, and again they were debating, should he be opening, should he be batting three, is this a bit of a, not a waste, but he does his best work opening, but when you've got Sudharsan and Gill up there at opening, and you mentioned the left and right hand cut combination, it seems like it's working perfectly with those top three at the moment.
Yeah, that is a thought that I had. Sai Sudharsan, I believe he was betting at three for most of last year's IPL, and he's done that switcheroo with Jos Buttler coming in and Jos Buttler dropping to three. I actually would have said in the preview, if I had been on there, that I think that was the wrong idea. I would have said Jos Buttler at the top. You want him facing more balls, and sort of Sai Sudharsan to either be that break glass in emergency or that sort of momentum continuer if he came in with a platform. But they sort of switched it around on me, and it's working for them. I think that you've got to go with what works. They've obviously got a plan, and that involves something like Shafane Rutherford coming in and continuing that momentum. Look at the players they had left on the bench who didn't come in and bat. I'm looking particularly at Shah Rukh Khan from a finishing perspective. They they had all bases covered, had something gone wrong, and adapted to the situation here, bringing Shafane Rutherford in. Great job by that. You can't take anything away from them as a batting unit. Just a quick question on RCB. If you put your your bowling coach hat on for RCB, we've seen some sort of good performances from RCB for their first few matches. Was this a blueprint on how to beat RCB, which kind of heralds a little bit back to the seasons gone past? If they go after Josh Hazlewood and get him going at over sort of 10, 11 and over, does that open up a bit of a chink in the armor where you can score easily against others as long as you sort of bash Josh Hazlewood out of the attack? If you don't let him bowl to you where he wants to, and Sai Sudharsan did a great job of ensuring that if Josh Hazlewood was going to bowl length to him, he was going to ramp him. He had plans to Josh Hazlewood. Do you think that that's a plan or a blueprint on how to beat RCB after they've been so dominant? Go after Josh Hazlewood?
I actually think it might be almost the opposite, in that, and I think I know Hazelwood's figures blew out at the end there, but I would say that he controlled things, at least from a run rate perspective, okay at the start. I think by the time he got Sudharsan out, it was he was still going at only about sixes. But then what happened is that if you don't give your wickets away to Hazlewood, I think RCB's bowling plans are going to be really dependent on Hazlewood taking wickets up front, and maybe Bhuvi Kumar taking wickets up front, and being able to get those wickets in the power play. If they don't, the rest of that bowling attack doesn't really feel. I know Krunal Pandya got some wickets in that their opening game, but it doesn't feel like an attack that can really rip through a side through the middle there. They're a side that can contain, they can keep things going, but I don't think, I think it's quite dependent on Hazlewood, and maybe the plan is, okay, if Hazlewood bowls you the ball to hit, go for it. But if he doesn't, we can just manage the situation, and then once we're 100 for one, when he comes back, he's not such a threat, and we can go after him and can sort of, really put the icing on the cake at the end of things.
The sort of disappointing thing, as RCB's biggest fan, is that it feels like the same sort of story from last year. If Siraj didn't take wickets with the new ball, and he really did struggle to take those wickets, it's about how many runs RCB's batsmen can score. It's not really about the bowlers, and I thought that's something that had changed, or it felt like it changed, but it's the same story. And I guess maybe I'm being a bit harsh. It's the same story with any sort of game. If you're not taking wickets early, it sort of blows out. But I just felt like it was far too consistent last year that RCB weren't taking wickets in the power play, and this just feels like a sort of regular service resuming for me. That seems a little bit glass half empty, so we might have to move on.
Yeah, it does. It does. I think they've been very good to start the season. But if we are going to move on, going back one more day, it was the same story in that game. I think, to a lot of the stuff we've just talked about. Punjab's bowlers did a nice job before their top order helped them cruise to a comfortable victory against GT. And maybe the place to start is actually at the start again, because Lockie Ferguson comes into the side, and in a bit of an unfamiliar role for him, opening, sort of bowling in that power play, bowling a decent chunk of overs in that power play. It's something New Zealand often hold him back a little bit until the field goes out because of his pace, he can kind of, people get shots wrong and they still fly away to the boundary. And when you've only got 2 out, it's hard to protect that. But him and Arshdeep Singh's efforts paid immediate dividends, and suddenly Punjab was on top straight away.
100%. I think LSG with 39 for 3 at the power play, I believe. Yeah, again, a great start, same as the match we just talked about. I really liked the way that Arshdeep Singh bowled, and I think that the dismissal there of Mitchell Marsh was actually quite key to this for the Punjab here. And you mentioned Lockie as well there. I had some thoughts on that. I think that it was strange to see him bowling with the new ball in a sort of 2020 match like this. I liked it. Mm-hmm. I think it gives him a little bit of an extra weapon if he can get it to do just a little bit of something at his pace, like the Markram wicket where he played on. I think he can take wickets or at least be hard to score off. But, if he gets it wrong, he gets it wrong. But he gets it wrong no matter where in the innings he's bowling. I would be a little critical of how he was used through the middle. I think he came back in the 12th or 13th over, got a little bit of tap, and then didn't come back through the end or at all. So I'd be a little critical of how he was used there. But look, at the end of the day, I'm sort of nitpicking. I thought Glenn Maxwell bowled well. I thought Marco Jansen bowled really well, and Chahal bowled well through the middle. And even though Arshdeep Singh got some tap towards the end there, incredible last over to sort of restrict them to 170. That could have been 185 quite easily, sort of, and that gets into a lot harder chasing position. So, yeah, I think as a bowling unit, they did well. Have some reservations on how they're using Lockie. I thought he bowled well. It would have been nice to see him bowl 4.
Yeah, and on Lockie, I think he's a bowler who really benefits from bowling regularly and being in a side regularly. So I hope from a New Zealand point of view and from his point of view that we see that. I want them to stick with him. And, again, if he's going to bowl up front, maybe that's going to be, really help him because, yeah, he's someone who's had so many injuries over the past few years, just kind of these niggling ones that take him out for a little while and disrupt his flow. And yeah, when he's in a great rhythm, he's got all the change ups he's developed a lot over the years. And yeah, when he gets that movement, he can be so threatening. So yeah, I do hope we see that.
Can I ask you a little bit around LSG's recovery through the middle there? It's a theme that we have seen a little bit of. They lost wickets early. You had Pooran, Badoni through the middle, and Samad as well, sort of forming some partnerships to get them to a decent score, even if it was at a little bit of a slower pace through the middle. We've had a little discussion around finishes, when they should be coming in. Nothing seems to change no matter what. They're going to come in the 14th, 15th over and finish off an innings. That's their job. They'll push others up through the innings to sort of make the finishers only face the amount of balls that they want to. What do you make of that recovery and how they finished that off?
Yeah, I mean, I still remain puzzled by the finishers stuff. I'm not going to lie, but I can see it from a team's point of view why they do that. I mean, the game we just talked about, RCB. Having Tim David so low down. I don't know if he's a bit better. Why doesn't he come in earlier? But they seem to want that. That's a theme of things. So I won't go on too much about that. But yeah, it was. I think LSG probably got to a score better than I thought they were going to. At all of those points, Pooran was leading the rebuild. He's been fantastic throughout this tournament. It was a really different innings from him than the first couple of games. He'd been get 70, 75 in the first couple of games and in quick time and really sort of showing his ball striking, his six hitting. And in this game, there was a few glimpses of that, but it was a much more composed innings. Obviously, knew that he had to make sure that they got a score, got up to something where they could try and defend. And he only gets one wicket in this game, but I think Chahal's wicket to get Pooran at just after going for a couple of boundaries, being able to sort of have that bravery to toss it up deceives Pooran and gets him caught at long off. I thought that was a huge wicket because, that ball goes for 6. Suddenly there's a bit more momentum and Pooran's going again. And yeah, it really could have gone up to 200 even after that slow start. And then it's a
100%.
completely different game. So yeah, look, I thought even though LSG, got going and got built some partnerships, they were still able to pick up wickets. Punjab was able to pick up wickets when they needed to, and yeah, big credit. I love Yuzi Chahal, and that was a massive wicket. If we're going to talk a little bit about the that rebuild though, I think we have to mention that Abdul Samad scoop shot. What do you make of that off of Arshdeep? Arch, full toss outside off, and he's lifted it to the leg side of the keeper.
It's one of the first things I talked to you about this morning. I got the player wrong, but I was just the outrageousnto of that shot was incredible. It would have almost been a wide, I think, and he's just scooped it over his shoulder to go for 6.
I think it was one. It was 4. It might have been 4. Yeah,
but it was just outrageous. As a bowler, I would hate to bowl in this new modern age of cricket, 2020 cricket, white ball cricket. It's just, I don't know where you bowl when you've got batsmen who could. It doesn't matter where you bowl; they could put the ball into the gap wherever it is. They're just so talented. It was a great shot.
It was, and I think much like the last game, we thought 170 decent fight back. Maybe didn't feel like quite enough in my head, but maybe that's more because they were struggling. And, it felt like they were scraping up to that score. The pitch wasn't quite a road. Scores have been lower this week. But again, the Punjab just make it look easy in the end.
Yeah, I wasn't sure whether it was enough. I thought they were a little bit short, but I really thought they were a little bit short after the power play and sort of the first 10 overs. They really came out hard, Punjab Kings, after this total. Prab Simran, he looks very, very good. He played a couple of good knocks last season as well that I can remember just off the top of my head. He looks very, very hard to hit. And it's just so good watching a Shreyas Iyer in form. All of his shots are just absolutely poetic in a way. Beautiful to watch. And it was a very sort of composed, guiding innings to bring them home from Shreyas Iyer after the powerful, the vigor of the batting that has started that was in the first 10 overs. So I thought it was a very complete chase from Punjab. Both the games that we've talked about today, the chasing side has been very, very composed. I don't know if there is a due factor that helps the second team. I don't know if in this case whether it helped or not, but they look to be striking the ball very, very well.
Oh, and I think the exciting thing for Punjab is that it's been the Indian batting core that's really, been the catalyst for their games so far. And, as you said, Prab Simran, he got the ramps out and then started to show his power. We had Nihil Wadera a bit later on, which was nice to see, someone I've always had a bit of time for. But yeah, I mean, Shreyas Iyer, you mentioned, he just looks in incredible form. And this is going back a wee way to the Champions Trophy now. And he just doesn't fail anymore. I went back and looked, his last 10 scores in cricket, the ODIs and now into the IPL, 50, 59, 44, 78, 15, which is his one failure, and then 56, 79, 45, 48, 97 not out in Punjab's first game, and then 52 not out off 30 in this match. And he's just doing it over and over and over again at the moment. It's great to watch. He doesn't really look like getting out. He looks in complete control, complete sort of managing of, he seems to know, again, going back to the Champions Trophy, kind of knows what he needs to do for the team, knows how quickly he needs to score. I don't know. I mean, if he remains in this form, they're going to be very, very hard to beat. And I don't know. I mean, he's putting himself back in the mix for India's T20 side. He is just ticking every single box, and even leading from the front. If we talk about his captaincy, I think KKR won their last 6 games in a row last season. He's off to a flying start again with a couple of back-to-back wins. I think he's broken a record now, broken MS Dhoni's record for most consecutive wins as a captain in IPL.
Okay.
I can't speak highly enough of what he's doing.
No, he's looked very, very, very good. And I think if I think back about sort of Punjab Kings and what we've said to them, we've said about them over the last few seasons, they've lost a lot of tight matches. I can distinctly remember a couple of times where we've like gone, Prab Simrans actually kept them in that game, which they shouldn't have been in sort of last year, and they had close losses. But now they're sort of getting over them, and they've got that guiding hand through the middle. Shreyas Iyer, I think, has been a great addition for them, and it's getting them over the line. They're not losing tight games. I know it's only been a few games this season, but I think there's definitely a change in how they are batting and closing out games. So, yep, all power to Shreyas Iyer. If we're sort of looking forward to the rest of the tournament and talking about LSG, we have to address the elephant in the room, the Rishabh Pant sized elephant. He's really struggled. 17 runs through his first 3 innings with a low strike rate. Glenn Maxwell, interesting stat, has just dismissed him for the third time in 4 innings. So there's some data-driven decisions being made there. What do you make of Pant's struggle and even the pressure that he's dealing with as sort of the most expensive signing and all of that?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I mean, 3 failures in a row. He's been sitting watching during the Champions Trophy as KL Rahul did a wonderful job. I'm sure he's watching around, looking at people like Sanju Samson and that they are putting themselves in the mix for this T20 side. Even though back to the T20 World Cup, Rishabh Pant was super important and sort of in a different way. Batting at 3, playing. Maybe it's harsh to call him the anchor, but sort of people were batting around him at times and on tricky wickets. But yeah, he's looked a bit all over the place, and they bought a Gavaskar. I don't know. He's become a record signing in the IPL auction. Moves to LSG, given the captaincy. I think if you want to be glass half full, you're saying he was out off a waist high full toss in the previous game. He's had a rubbish delivery from Maxwell today to short fine leg. Part of me wants to believe that pretty soon he's going to have a day where these shots just go wide of the fielder. He's away. He gets going, gets a massive score. But I think the other part of me is a little bit concerned. There's as much as these guys, they've been facing the pressure for a long time being an Indian cricketer. You're in the spotlight from an early age. I think, there's got to be some pressure to be the highest paid player in the IPL. You need to deliver, and he's just not really doing that so far. So it's certainly going to be something to watch over the next couple of games.
It's a lot of pressure to not only captain, wicketkeep, do all of that sort of in sort of one go, as well as go out there and score runs. So I do feel for him, and the pressure must be immense. But he's got to start delivering. Otherwise, he's gonna at the end of the season they're going to be like Rishabh Pant's the reason that LSG hasn't done well. They've built a great side around him, and he's really let them down. And I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that for him for the end of the season. But just continuing the LSG themed banter. What did you make of the celebration of Digvish when he dismissed? Who was it? It was Pranch Arya at the beginning.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, go and watch it, and then come back to this.
Oh, I've seen it. Don't worry about that. But yes, I think all of our listeners, if you haven't seen it yet, definitely go back and look at it. Some of the commentators didn't like it. I mean, he got fined, reprimanded 25% of his match fee, a demerit point for that celebration. A little run up to Aya and put him in the notebook, which I don't know. I'm a big fan of obviously I didn't hear any words he said. I don't know what's going on there. I can't comment on that, but I love celebrations. I'm a huge fan of people enthusiastic celebrating. One of my all-time favourites was Imran Tahir, just because of the way that he's just sprint off almost to the boundary sometime, wheeling away whenever he gets a wicket. We've got mutual love for Neil Wagner for the passion that he shows every time he gets a wicket. And, I don't know. I think I'm on his side here, and I think you should be able to do that. I think it's all in good fun, but I'm sure a batter like you probably doesn't enjoy those antics.
Yeah, look, it's all fun and games. And a lot of times, when you see those sort of extravagant celebrations from the Tahirs, a lot of the West Indians do things very similar, but very rarely do you see them run after the batsman and get in their face and do it in their face in front of them like that. It's very rare. The only reason that this hasn't been made more of is because Arya didn't smack him in the head with his bat, which I would have been tempted to do if someone had run up to me and celebrated like that on TV. But yeah, look, it's all fun and games. I think he could have handled it with more class, but look, I'm fine with it. I'm not going to die on a hill saying he shouldn't have done it.
I think this last point on this game, I think it is worth mentioning again that LSG's bowling injuries continue to make it pretty tough for them. I know, mentioned it in the preview that I'm sure that their side has been built around let's stack our overseas side, or let's pick our overseas side stack them with batters, and then really just load up on this great Indian core of bowlers that we've got with Akashdeep and Mayank Yadav and Avesh Khan and all of that, and Ravi Bishnoi. And, Avesh Khan is back now, but Akashdeep's still out, Mayank Yadav out for a long time. And it is really hurting them. I mean, Shardul was unable to repeat his heroics today. And I think Ravi Bishnoi seems to really be struggling. Maybe because of the lack of other bowlers around him. He's conceded 53, 42, 43 in his first 3 games. So, yeah, it's been really tough for them. And I think it's going to continue to make it tough for them if they're not able to, get some of these guys back pretty soon, because yeah, it's just hard when your depth falls away like that. Before we finish the show, do we want to
just a point on that one? So just a point on that one. I 100% agree. Maybe I'm sort of seeing this the wrong way with sort of Shardul Thakur, but whenever I see him, he seems to always go for runs. I know he has some really good performances sort of mixed in there, but I think consistently I see him sort of getting smashed around a little bit. I'm surprised. Was there any reason that you know of that Mitchell Marsh and Aiden Markram didn't have a bowl?
Marsh is not bowling in this tournament. He's injured. So he's coming back from injury. So they've decided that, he's probably decided, Australia has probably decided that they don't want him to bowl in this tournament. So he's said, I can only do that. Markram, I don't know. I mean, I don't love Markram as a bowler. Certainly not in T20 cricket.
These are the kind of bowlers that don't bowl 4 overs, but they could bowl you 12 balls and sort of get you a wicket, or bowl it, be that golden arm.
Yeah.
Sort of if Marsh is injured, that's fine. But I do think they need to look at, slipping in Markram in there, if you can. At least throw on the ball and see what happens in 6 balls. It can't do. Cross my fingers, touch. So it can't do that much damage, giving him 6 balls. But I think that's sort of what's missing is what does that rotation look like when things don't go well? They fell back on their spinners here, and they didn't essentially change the course of anything. Bishnoi was actually a little bit wayward. I felt he bowled a full toss. And I think that you can't be inconsistent with your line and length in this tournament, with no matter what kind of bowler you are. But I don't think that changing to spin was the right way to go here, or maybe not the bowler to go with. So sorry, move on. You had another point to make.
Oh no, I mean I think on that, I was a little bit surprised that they brought Sudharsan instead of Prince Yadav as their impact player as well, because I thought Yadav bowled quite well in the last game. But yeah, we're getting excited by chatting again, and we've gone on for a little while here. But brief mention, I think, before we finish, of the game tonight, Sunrisers versus KKR, rematch of 2024 final, but the loser is going to be 1-3 to start this season. It already feels like a pretty important game, Raj. Am I overreacting here?
I think it is an important match, but this tournament, we forget how long this tournament is. They by no means have a line drawn through them or anything like that. Any team can sort of turn their fortunes around, but it is a big game in the scheme of things. I really like watching the Sunrisers play. I think they're always capable of scoring 300 in a 2020 game, so I'm gonna look forward to that. But yeah, I don't think we can jump on press the panic button at this stage, but it'll be interesting to see how these teams are doing. And it's actually very interesting. Some will be a fan of it, some won't be a fan of how the sort of big changes have happened over in the off season with players being released and that sort of cycle. I think it's good for the tournament to have other teams push up and the teams that were winning push down. We don't want to see one team winning every year.
Absolutely, and these two teams are probably two of the teams who really decided to retain a lot of their similar players from last year, and they haven't. Neither of them have been quite able to recapture that form, even though Sunrisers sort of exploded in that first game. So yeah, look, big game for them. KKR's actually kind of had the wood over the Sunrisers in recent times. Sort of, I think it's 4 on the bounce that they've won against them. A couple of big wins in the playoff and then the final last year to sort of, not basically doing it the way that you beat the Sunrisers side by knocking the top off their batting lineup. They just keep going hard and they give you wickets later on if you're able to stop, Abhishek and Travis Head and the likes at the top of the order. So I'm sure they'll be looking to do that again, but we won't try and predict too much. This tournament comes around so quickly, all these games back to back to back. So yeah, look, we'll be back again on Sunday night here, New Zealand time. Probably episode will come out on Monday with a bit of a stock refresh again. Who's gone? Who are we buying? Who are we selling? Who are we holding? I think, as I said at the top of the show, a few of us might be a little bit bankrupt from some of our choices about who to buy and who to sell last week. But it's always good fun to kind of look back at a full week of IPL. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this little wrap up from us this morning, and we'll see you all again very, very soon.